Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo now under criminal investigation for sexual harassment allegations. 2 more prosecutors announced they're also requesting evidence. And contentious cross-examination of Robert Durst, expert witness.
Do you really want me to, because you're a bully?
A real estate heir's defense as prosecutors rest their case. Plus, harrowing police body cam video released of the Surfside condo collapse. The chaos, confusion, and fear in those first moments after the disaster. From New York's governor.
Brian, DAs in 3 New York counties, Albany, Manhattan, and Westchester, have all requested investigative materials from the New York Attorney General's office. And Albany's DA says that any victim of crime is welcome to contact his office.
I think he should resign.
The President of the United States calling on Governor Cuomo to resign following the release of that damning report on sexual harassment. Governor Cuomo was defiant when responding to the findings.
Trial by newspaper or biased reviews are not the way to find the facts in this matter. I welcome the opportunity for a full and fair review before a judge and a jury.
Independent investigators spoke with 11 women, 1 a state trooper on Governor Cuomo's security detail. The report includes photos of female employees with Governor Cuomo, in which they said he touched them inappropriately and made them uncomfortable. Executive Assistant 1 told investigators the governor grabbed her rear end when asking her to take a selfie. The report said the governor denied touching her backside. But Albany County's district attorney sees enough merit in the report's findings to launch a criminal investigation. David Soros spoke to NBC Nightly News.
The allegations early on certainly led myself and other prosecutors with concurrent jurisdiction to believe that criminal activity, in fact, had taken place. But we will conduct our own independent investigation. It will be done expeditiously, and we will arrive at those conclusions.
Soros said a formal complaint against the governor is needed, and his office has made overtures to some accusers.
Now, New York State Assembly has opened an impeachment inquiry. That whole process could move pretty quickly, with a trial in the state Senate possible in late September, early October. Still, though, the governor has indicated he will not be resigning. Brian?
Thanks, Anjanette. Joining us today is State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg. Dave, just for a moment, I'm going to make you the Albany DA. I have that power here at Law and Crime. Walk us through building a case off an Attorney General's investigation.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you, Brian. The first step is to check out the lengthy report from the Attorney General and go through it to look at crimes. Now, remember, a lot of the stuff in there would be a civil matter, not a criminal matter. So you look at what would involve the touching and instead of the words. If it's just the words that made people feel like there was a hostile work environment or sexual harassment, that would be in the civil context, the administrative context as well, but not a criminal matter. Now, a criminal matter would be the touching. So there are at least 3 of the victims that apparently alleged improper touching. Under New York law, the statute is forcible touching. And to come under that statute, which is a grade A misdemeanor, class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 364 days in jail, you would need to be touching an intimate area. So when the trooper said that Cuomo rubbed her stomach down to her hip, is that an intimate area? That's the kind of thing you need to follow up on. So you want to contact those 3 victims to see if it matches the elements of the statute, forcible touching, and you want to check out their corroboration, and you want to make sure it all falls within the 2-year statute of limitations.
Absolutely. And Jeanette, isn't Governor Cuomo getting a lot of pressure to step down from other governors?
Yeah, he really is, Brian. There are 4 governors in the Northeast, including the governors of New Jersey and Connecticut, who have jointly called on Governor Cuomo to resign. He's indicated he's not going to do that. It is interesting, though, the governors in New Jersey and Connecticut both worked very closely with Governor Cuomo during the coronavirus pandemic at the very beginning. So they are really pushing on him to step down.
All right, we'll continue to follow this, the fallout, or at least appears the fallout of Governor Cuomo. He doesn't seem to be stepping down anytime soon. We'll bring you more information as this continues. Turning now to more top legal news, 3 of the former police officers charged in George Floyd's case want their federal trials separated from Derek Chauvin. Attorneys for J. Alexander King and Tu Tao say their clients would be unfairly prejudiced if they went to trial alongside Chauvin. Attorneys for Thomas Lane filed a motion asking to join the request. Tao's attorney also wants him to be tried on his own. All 4 ex-cops are accused of violating Floyd's civil rights. They're due in court next month for their federal arraignment. Dave, talk to us about the reasons for severance. Do they make sense? And are you surprised that the 3 officers aren't blaming each other, especially Tu Tao?
They definitely make sense for the defense. Now, for the prosecution, my side of the aisle, we would want them all to be tried together. It's more efficient. It's easier to tell the story when they're all in the courtroom at the same time, as opposed to have to just put them all in silos and only tell part of the story to the jury. But for defendants, it definitely helps them because, first, they don't want to be tarred with Chauvin. Chauvin is a national pariah. Why would you ever want to, as they say in the world of pro wrestling, get the rub from that guy? You know, you don't want to be associated with that guy. And even though you didn't necessarily do the same thing, and if you're Tao, you didn't even have your knee on George Floyd's neck. You were the lookout, even though it's all caught on video. But you don't want to be put on the same trial in the same courtroom as the guy who has already been convicted of a very serious felony, who has become a national pariah. And so that's why it makes every sense in the world for them to separate their case from Chauvin.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I would expect even Tu Tao to separate again from Lane and the other officer as well, but we'll give you updates on that as that progresses. Thank you, Dave Ehrenberg. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, will Robert Durst take the stand? The defense's case in the trial of the real estate heir accused of murder. And later, newly released body cam video from the Surfside condo collapse, the rescue efforts of first responders, and heartbreaking moments. Back, it's now Robert Durst and his defense's turn to present evidence in the murder trial of the real estate heir. Robert Durst insists he's innocent of any murder and says he didn't kill his best friend Susan Berman in December 2000 and Ted Bundy.
False memories can be caused by external suggestion. If there is some source outside the individual person who mentions something that is misleading or erroneous in some way in a conversation, that can lead a person to have a false memory. People get false memories when they're interrogated in suggestive or leading ways, or if they're exposed to biased media coverage that insinuates things that may not be true. These are opportunities for new information to enter a witness's awareness and lead them to remember something that is false.
The doctor is known for her book titled Witness for the Defense. Things got heated on cross-examination when prosecutor John Lewin asked about the doctor not wanting to sit down for an interview with him.
Tell me, why is it that as an unbiased witness, you weren't willing to sit down with the prosecution in this case, with myself, with the defense attorney present, recorded, etc., and explain in advance what you were going to be doing in this case? Why?
Do you really want me to? Because you're a bully, and I didn't want to subject myself to that unpleasant experience. Typically, I am called by the defense and in a criminal case, and so probably prosecutors are not that happy when I come into the courtroom to testify on behalf of the defense, which I think is true of you.
Oh, I'm thrilled you're here. Trust me. I would have driven you myself. I'll drive you home if you want. So,
move to strike. Yes, stricken.
Prosecutor Lewin then asked the doctor about her work in the Weinstein and Bill Cosby cases and whether she determined if the charges against the men were untrue. When she wouldn't answer, Lewin objected.
Your Honor, my request to the court is that if I ask her a yes or no question, and I don't think there's any issue that she couldn't answer the question without the extraneous information, that she answer the question that I asked, and that counsel can. It's not a speaking objection. It's a request of the court.
You shouldn't be arguing these things in front of the jury. I've warned you about that before. Don't do it. It is appropriate. Don't do it. Stop.
I'm asking the court.
Stop. Quiet. I am going to speak with the witness.
Let's bring back State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg, and Correspondent Anjanette Levy. Dave, if you were Lewin, I know you probably wouldn't operate the same way. Where would your cross-examinations with Durst start and end if he takes the stand?
Well, this guy is a triple murderer, and it's because he did kill those 3 people. He was found not guilty on the second one, even though he dismembered the body because they said it was self-defense. But he had motive, he had means, and they want to portray him as a sick old man. I would just go into ask him basic questions about all the acts that he's done and all the statements that he has made that have contradicted each other. Like, for example, he denied for years that he wrote the infamous cadaver note. Remember, when Susan Berman's body was found, there was a note that was mailed to police saying there's a cadaver at this address, and it misspelled Beverly Hills on the envelope. For years, Durst denied that he wrote the note because whoever wrote the note was the one who discovered the body and was involved with the murder. Now he remembers that he actually wrote the note. It's just a pattern of lies from a murderer, and I hope that the jury sees through that. This is not the sick, old, frail man that he wants you to believe. He's a cunning murderer who deserves justice once and for all.
All right, so going for the inconsistencies in his statements. And Jeanette, what did you think of the cross-examination of Dr. Loftus?
You know, I think, Brian, that we all love watching a good rough and tumble cross-examination, and some attorneys really can get in there and, drive home a point and land a punch. This was, obviously classic Lewin, very snarky. We've seen this through this entire trial, that he gets kind of rough with these witnesses, almost in, the woman said she didn't want to be bullied by him. She didn't want to sit down with him before a trial. So, I think it's a little much, but it's what I expected.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the jury is thinking about her excuse for not sitting down with him. Do they understand that sentiment, or maybe they're holding it against her? At least for me, I think I would understand it to some degree. Thank you both. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, inside the courtroom for the trial of a man accused of shooting a deputy at point blank. Plus, first-hand accounts from Surfside, Florida, of the seconds and minutes after the deadly condo collapse. The video capturing those desperate moments after the break. Welcome back. Harrowing body cam footage from police officers in Surfside, Florida captured the first moments as they arrived at the condo collapse. And Jeanette Levy is back with a new video and what's next for the victims and their loved ones.
Well, Brian, I need to tell you right off the top that this video is hard to watch. There was shock and confusion when police arrived on the scene. There is body camera video from 3 Surfside officers that recorded every minute of what they found.
Cries and screams for help come from beneath the rubble.
The Champlain Towers building collapsed. The back part of the building collapsed.
Officers not yet understanding the enormity of what had happened.
Is there a fire? No, dude, the building is collapsed.
The Champlain Towers South crashed to the ground on June 24th around 1:25 a.m. as many residents slept. One of the officers searched the garage for survivors.
Is anybody there?
Cars seen twisted, then a voice.
Hello? Where are you?
The officer asking if people are hurt. The voices responding, many.
So this is unstable here. People screaming, bro.
Others ran from their buildings, hoping to help.
Like it's a jet right through the front of my balcony.
Another boom, boom come. That's when I heard a brrr.
The building's security guard, thankful to have gotten out.
I see wire just sparkling in the air. So I say, oh God, help me.
98 people killed in a matter of seconds. The officers who'd hoped to save lives step back and begin to take in the loss.
I've never seen anything like this, bro.
Now, a Miami judge has approved an initial $150 million to go to the victims and their families who suffered losses, of course. That money will come from the building's insurance policy and any proceeds that come from the expected sale of the property. Brian?
Thanks, Anjanette. Let's bring back State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg. Now, Dave, a minimum of $150 million, not including what will likely be a class action suit. Could this be the sign of a serious legal fault by the condo?
Yeah, and I think that there's still the possibility of criminal charges, although I think it's unlikely. But there'll be a ton of civil lawsuits. There will be a class action lawsuit that will be certified here. So yeah, this is bad news for everyone involved. This is a horrific, tragic loss of life, and there will be a financial hit to the condo association. But you can't get blood from a stone. At some point, there's just not going to be enough money, and so I don't know if they'll ever be fully compensated from a financial standpoint. And from a criminal standpoint, the only crime that I think would be charged here would be the crime of manslaughter by culpable negligence, which requires prosecutors to show a reckless disregard of human life. It's doing something or failing to do something that the defendant knew or should have known would cause death or great bodily injury. It's like the person who shoots in the air at a New Year's Eve party and kills someone. But based on what we know now, I don't think it rises that level until the grand jury comes out with more evidence.
And of course, that grand jury is reviewing this information as we've been told. And of course, we'll give you that update as we hear it, because there could very well be, as you're saying, Dave, potential criminal charges. Thank you for your input. When we come back, an accused cop killer on trial. What the defendant allegedly said before the deadly shooting that could blow. Welcome back. Continuing coverage of the Tennessee trial of a man accused of shooting a deputy and setting the deputy's body on fire. Stephen Wiggins is on trial for allegedly shooting Dickinson County Sheriff's Deputy Sergeant Daniel Baker, stealing his squad car, then lighting his body on fire. Baker was killed back in May 2018 while responding to a report of a suspicious vehicle driven by the defendant. If convicted, Wiggins could face the death penalty. Wiggins' attorneys admit he's the killer, but say the shooting wasn't premeditated. But an acquaintance of the defendant says he heard Wiggins make a shocking statement not long before the shooting.
Did you observe a defendant or a pistol in the defendant's lap?
Yes, sir.
And did you tell the defendant to be careful driving around Dixon with a pistol in his lap?
Yes, sir.
And what was his response when you told him that?
If anybody tries to arrest me, I'll smoke their.
The defense has been extremely limited in their cross-examinations, but did ask this witness if he only came forward with this statement after he was indicted on his own charges in a separate case.
Would you disagree if Agent Nee said it was November 23rd of 2019?
No, because I said I didn't remember.
Okay. But you were indicted in August. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
You went to court for that.
Correct.
Had several court appearances for that.
Correct.
All right. And you knew you were facing a lot of time for those charges.
I had already been accepted into a program before I ever done the statement, so I'd already signed up for drug court and been accepted into drug court.
Well, when did you sign up for that?
There again, I don't know the dates, but I was accepted into drug court before I ever said anything about this case.
Okay. Which is why when you talk to the law enforcement, you repeatedly asked them, did you not, what are they going to do to help me since I'm giving them this information?
I did ask, yeah, correct.
But why did you need help if you already had everything worked out?
I don't know.
Dave, could this alleged statement this witness is telling us Wiggins made mean a premeditated act? And does the saying "if" in that statement change anything?
I don't think his testimony makes a huge difference because he has so much evidence of premeditation. The fact that he lied about the car door being unable to be opened, forcing the sergeant to go around the car, and then he ambushed him with a gun. I mean, that's plenty of premeditation there. So I don't even think you need this guy, but it does show an additional level when he said, yeah, if anyone stops me, I'm going to smoke him. So it's just evidence on top of evidence. I think he'll be found guilty and guilty of first-degree murder, and then I'm hoping he achieves the ultimate punishment here because he deserves it.
Now, Dave, I know that you're thinking that this testimony doesn't really help all that much, but just a little question about the defense's cross-examination that we just saw. Does the timing of when this witness came forward affect his credibility in your eyes?
It could. I mean, he definitely has a motive to lie, but these kind of guys like Wiggins, they don't hang around with choir boys. You have witnesses like this all the time who are friends with people who would commit such a horrific crime. And so, yeah, did he come forward because he was going to get a deal? It was in his benefit. Sure. It doesn't mean he's lying. And even if he wasn't telling the truth, there's still plenty of evidence of premeditation. Remember, when it comes to premeditation, you don't need to have days of planning. It just has to be done like right before. It's like the example of someone who sees an ant walking around and you decide to step on it. That's enough premeditation. So the law is pretty generous for prosecutors. And I think that this witness will not make a huge difference one way or the other.
Would absolutely agree. The defense's argument so far about premeditation, at least from my understanding, the state doesn't really make sense. Like you said, I don't want to be that ant in your description, but stepping on the ant is enough for premeditation. And I hear you when it comes to the other witnesses. His statements, I don't think are really going to go one way or the other. This statement, I think, helps the prosecution, but not doing much. But at the very least, Dave Ehrenberg, what I've learned so far is I should get a choir boy of a friend so I can maybe be a little better position with people based on my credibility. But thank you very much for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.